Hello and welcome to the second part of my Magic the Gathering video about sealed deck, with particular reference to using the Dragon's Maze pre-release set, or well, more of a pre-release kit I suppose that you would get. And if you remember in the first one I unboxed it, and the colours I chose were basically Simic along with the Selesnya was what it was biased towards. So not surprisingly, and it may be a bit complicated how I've laid this out, but as I obviously opened these cards I realised there was an awful lot going on in terms of the cards I was pulling. But you can see hopefully that I've obviously got an awful lot of green, white, a lot of blue, green, and a lot of white and a bit of white blue there. Mono black and mono red cards, probably my lowest amounts there. And then I've got some gold cards in the middle. Along the top here I've just laid out some of the mana fixing, or the mana fixing I have. And then over in this little stack here I've just taken out all the cards that at the moment I'm not too interested in playing, and then obviously I've got the bits and bobs there like tokens. So that's just my cards I wanted to put to one side, and so I could concentrate on the sort of cards that I did want to play and I thought would work well together. The problem I have here is I have got actually an awful lot of choices. Now when you're doing a sealed deck, when you're sealed deck building, there's an acronym that sort of comes up a lot, and that's BREAD. Now, with what I've noticed happens with this acronym is that the B, the R and the E are pretty much all agreed on, and people talk about bombs, removal, evasion as the first three. Now for the A and the D, I've heard people refer them as aggro and dregs. Another way of looking at it is the 5 acronyms represent all the sort of things you will be looking for, and then the dregs are the rest. So bombs, rares, evasion. The D stands for draw, basically, and then the A could stand for aggro or acceleration, or so depending on what article you read, the last two, the A and the D in that BREAD, often stand for different things, but the first three are always, the ones I've seen anyway, are bombs, rare, removal, evasion. So that's one way of looking at it. Now, I've looked at other articles that have sort of expanded from that, and I'm seeing some interesting articles written by Olivier Ruel, and what he talks about doing, which is interesting, is looking for what he calls strong points, and he talks about obviously bombs and removal. But then other strong points you should be looking for are things like the mana curve, the mana stability, what sort of creatures you've got. Are you playing aggro, therefore you're going to have more creatures? Are you going to be looking, does your build or do your picks look like it's going to lend itself more towards control? So therefore you may have less creatures. Evasion obviously comes up, and then things like card advantage and what's called tricks. So this is, with tricks, what we're talking about is certain cards that maybe counter things or bounce things or pump things. And these can sometimes sort of help where maybe your removal is not very strong. So as I started to look at this deck, in addition to the original idea of going with green, blue, and then obviously because of the bias of the cards, I end up thinking, well, I could go for green, blue, white, so a 3-colour deck. I'm going to spread these cards out in a moment once I sort of subdivide them into areas. At the moment, I've got them convenient for sorting. So what I effectively did is I sorted obviously my white cards and my white blue multicolours, my blues plus blue greens, black red, and then greens and green whites. And they are actually in order of ascending manner, but you can see here what I've actually got is on the bottom of each pile I've actually got the anything that either isn't a creature or doesn't generate some form of creature. So that might be removal, it might be pump spells, that sort of thing, down the bottom. In the case of black, mono black, all the mono black stuff I've got is all creatures, just all creatures. So if I went for green, white, blue, I've got a lot of choice, and I think that's the way I'm going to go. But what I also did with the deck is, let's just talk about what's up here. So I lined up all the rares that I pulled to see, often when you're looking at rares, because of the rarity of the card, there is a tendency for, an awful lot of your bombs going to be in your rare slot. Now that's not to say you don't get uncommon bombs, but generally, your bomby cards are all going to be in the rare slot or in the mythic slot, and with your commons providing your utility. Now what it became apparent to me was I had these 3 very powerful multicoloured cards here. We've got a mythic, Master of Cruelties, a rare in the form of Zertar Ancient, and another rare, Varol's the Scar Striped. All creatures, all have interesting abilities. And then in the colours that I was thinking about playing, which is white, blue, green, I've got some mana fixing, mana bloom. I've got Diluvian Primordial, which enables you to cast spells from your opponent's graveyard, and Renounce the Guilds, which basically where each player sacrifices a multicoloured permanent. So that you might want to deal with a multicolour threat on your opponent, but you'd have to obviously get rid of one of your own. So looking at this, I started to see, well, this, I could play black, red, green here and utilise these. Now if I did do that, what I noticed with my mana fixing is that it wasn't particularly effective in that colour combination. The colour combination that it's most effective in is actually white, blue, green, in that I have Simic stuff, I've got Simic Guildgate, Simic Clue Stones, I've got a Breeding Pool, I've got Celestia Guildgate, so 2 Celestia Clue Stones, and 1 each of an Azorius Guildgate and an Azorius Clue Stone. I do have some other stuff over here, but none that necessarily fix specifically for the colour combinations of black and red, or red and green, or what was the other one? Or black and green. So there's some problems there. If I'm playing a 3-colour deck, I could end up into in sort of difficult mana problems. But it was worth considering nonetheless. So if I was to play, so again I've tried to group together here the relevant multicoloured cards that are also in that colour combination. So I could basically think of it this way. So I've got these cards here, and then black and red here. Now 2 of the cards, or actually more than 2, 4 of the cards here, 2 in black, 2 in red, are these gatekeepers, which benefit from you having guild gates in play. The problem is, because nothing specifically fixes for these colour combinations in my gill gates, in order to do that I would be doing something like, you know, having to play gill gates which only generated one particular colour, just to maybe hope that I would get to draw them, and they would be used in combination with those gatekeepers. So again, sort of probability may not be on my side, but I must admit the advantage or the temptation to play this Master of Cruelties, an incredibly powerful card, might sway my judgment there. The other thing I noticed was an interesting synergy, be it fairly late on in the game, between the Maze Gliders that I've got 3 of these here, and the Master of Cruelties, where basically Maze Gliders make, when they're in play, they make multicoloured creatures, they give them flying. And so I was thinking, well, maybe I could have a blue, red, black deck. So there's my red, black, blue, black, blue with the colours that are here. I do have some mana fixing for blue, black, which is here. So I've got a Dimir Gill Gate. I've also got some blue, red. I've got Is It Cluestone, another blue, red, Is It Cluestone, and then I've got these other ones, which obviously only have one that will be relevant. So red, white, Boros Cluestone, another Cluestone there, and an Orzhov Gillgate. And also only the Gillgates would benefit me with the synergy with the gatekeepers. But that did cross my mind. That would be an interesting synergy. In terms of synergies overall, I think I'm going to go with the white, blue, green combination. And then what I'll do in my next video, I'm going to spread that out on the deck and just tune the final deck. But I must admit, I'm rather apprehensive in not being drawn towards these bombs here. But it's something about the lack of mana fixing in those colours. But saying that, I do have a Mana Bloom here, and I've got this, these here, which could help me. So, maybe I'll also look at, what if I built a black, red, green combination? What would happen there? And I may well do 2 more videos, not just an assembling the deck video, but also assembling 2 decks for that. Anyway, so that's how I've sorted the cards, really, both by colour and just trying to isolate some of the more bomby cards, and also my mana base. Now, because of the colour combinations of the deck, of the set, I do find it quite complicated to do this. If you've got decks with less colour combinations, sometimes it's easier. It makes it easier to sort, easier to lay out. So that's why I'm having to do sort of the one layout and then remove some cards and then do another. Anyway, I'll be back with a further 1 or 2 videos. Thanks for watching.